Hello, everyone. The sun is shining. Could it be summer? No, because it's going to rain all day tomorrow. Yay. Okay. Chapter 12. Offred takes a bath. She remembers her small daughter who was taken from her. Back at the house, Offred prepares for the first sexual encounter with her new commander by taking a bath. Of course, as she reflects, this is prescribed as a hygienic measure, but it's also a form of ritual purification in a society where sex is associated with sin and uncleanliness. Lying in the bath, Offred is overwhelmed by the strangeness of her own naked body and a sense of longing for her lost daughter, and recalls an incident when a woman tried to steal her in a supermarket. Overwhelmed by loss, she remembers that her daughter would now be 8 years old. She is, however, recalled to the present by Cora and the sight of a tattoo on her ankle. As she sits in her room waiting to be summoned, she thinks about keeping her composure, for she knows that her present social identity as handmaid is one imposed on her, denying all her rights of choice as an individual, reducing her to passivity. Offred is caught in the space between past and present. Offred's final words, "What I must present is a made thing, not something born," echo those of the French feminist Simone de Beauvoir in The Second Sex, Sexual Critics reference, AO5. And Simone de Beauvoir says in The Second Sex, "One is not born Rio's in season. She's trying to make Obi love her. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman, is what Simone de Beauvoir says in The Second Sex. The art of performing femininity according to social conventions has merely taken on a different direction in Gilead. The art of performing femininity according to social conventions has mainly taken on a different direction in Gilead. Stop it! Leave him alone. So her final words of this chapter are a reference to Simone de Beauvoir. You're not born a woman, you become a woman. She's such a flat. All right, relatively short chapter again. Hang on a minute, let me get Genius up. Alrighty. The bathroom is beside the bedroom. It's papered in small blue flowers, forget-me-nots, with curtains to match. So, forget-me-nots are little blue flowers, akin to weeds. They grow everywhere. Nobody buys them in garden centres because they grow all over the place. And of course, this introduces the theme of not forgetting. Offred can't forget her daughter, or Luke, and throughout this chapter, she is reminiscing on her past. So there's a link straight away with the blue flowers called forget-me-nots and the flashbacks that we always have right the way through this novel. And flowers in this novel seem to have a huge significance right the way through, particularly Serena Joy's tulips in her garden, which we haven't talked a lot about yet, but we will. There's a blue bath mat, a blue fake fur cover on the toilet seat. All this bathroom lacks from the time before is a doll whose skirt conceals the extra roll of toilet paper, except that the mirror over the sink has been taken out and replaced by an oblong of tin, and the door has no lock. There are no razors, of course, so all of that is a precaution against the handmaids trying to, kill themselves with the mirror. There were incidents in bathrooms at first. There were cuttings, drownings. Very passive, that sentence there. Rather than handmaids try to cut themselves, handmaids try to drown themselves. It's a passive. There were cuttings, there were drownings. So it's like a news report, really. Before they got all the bugs ironed out, Cora sits on a chair outside in the hall to see that no one else goes in. So she's protected in the bathroom. Cora sits on a chair. Oh, sorry. In the bathroom, in the bathtub, you are vulnerable, says Aunt Lydia. She didn't say to what. The bath is a requirement, but it's also a luxury. Merely to lift off the heavy white wings and the veil, merely to feel my own hair again with my hands is a luxury. My hair is long now, untrimmed. Hair must be long but covered. Aunt Lydia said. St. Paul said it's either that or a close shave. She laughed, that held-back neighing of hers, as if she'd told a joke. Cora has... the neighing is interesting. It's onomatopoeic, so it could be that she just sounds like a horse. But also Aunt Lydia is being controlled by a master. By masters like horses are. Horses get ridden by their masters. And the aunts are also being controlled in the same way. To do somebody else's bidding up to a point. Horses, historically, of course, have carried things, messages, items, food, clothing, carts, and the aunts are carrying messages and education, and they have to do as they're told. They have to do the bidding of somebody else. Cora has run the bath. It steams like a bowl of soup. I take off the rest of the clothes. Notice she doesn't say my clothes, she says the clothes, the overdress, the white shift and petticoat, the red stockings, the loose cotton pantaloons. Pantyhose gives you crotch rot, Moira used to say. Aunt Lydia would never have used an expression like crotch rot. Unhygienic was hers. She wanted everything to be hygienic. My nakedness is strange to me already. My body seems outdated. Did I really wear bathing suits at the beach? I did, without a thought, among men, without caring that my legs, my arms, my thighs, and my back were on display, could be seen. Shameful and modest. I avoid looking down at my body, not so much because it's shameful or modest, but because I don't want to see it. I don't want to look at something that determines me so completely. So this is how indoctrination works. She's being indoctrinated. Because she's not used to seeing her naked body, it's become shameful to think that her naked body was on display for anyone and everyone who was there to see it. So, what does it say on Genius? Nude, the narrator tries to disassociate herself from her body and what it represents. She doesn't want to look at something that determines her so completely. What she means by that is that it's her body that grows the baby. It's her body that's really important. It's that vessel for the baby. The narrator passively, silently rejects the determination society has made about her based on her form and her fertility. So she's always thinking about what her body means, what her body represents. And she doesn't want to look at it. She doesn't want to look at that thing, even though it's her body. Technically it's not hers anymore because it's being controlled, it's being used by Gilead. She doesn't want to look at the thing that determines her as a baby grower. I step into the water, lie down, let it hold me. Nice personification there. The water is soft as hands, simile. I close my eyes and she's there with me, suddenly without warning. It must be the smell of the soap. I put my face against the soft hair at the back of her neck and breathe her in. Baby powder and child's washed flesh and shampoo. With an undertone, the faint scent of urine. This is the age she is when I'm in the bath. She comes back to me at different ages. This is how I know she's not really a ghost. If she were a ghost, she would be the same age always. One day, when she was 11 months old, just before she began to walk, a woman stole her out of a supermarket cart. It was a Saturday, which was when Luke and I did the week shopping, because both of us had jobs. She was sitting in the little baby seats they then had in supermarket carts with holes for legs. She was happy enough, and I turned my back. The cat food selection, I think it was. Luke was over at the side of the store, out of sight at the meat counter. He liked to choose what kind of meat we were going to eat during the week. He said men needed more meat than women did, and that it wasn't a superstition. He wasn't being a jerk. Studies had been done. There are some differences, he said. He was fond of saying that, as if I was trying to prove there weren't. But mostly he said it when my mother was there. He liked to tease her, because we know that her mother was a feminist. So him saying things like, men need more meat than women, would provoke her into a reaction. And I don't know the facts. I don't know whether men do need more meat. I think they need more calories. They may need more protein because they are physically bigger, or most men are physically bigger. It could be the beginning of anti-feminist argument in men. Maybe that's where Gilead started from in the first place. I heard her start to cry. I turned around and she was disappearing down the aisle in the arms of a woman I'd never seen before. I screamed and the woman was stopped. She must have been about 35. She was crying and saying it was her baby. The Lord had given it to her. He'd sent her a sign. I felt sorry for her. The store manager apologised and they held her until the police came. She's just crazy, Luke said. I thought it was an isolated incident at the time. So, could that have been foreshadowing? Gilead, her, other women taking her baby? I think it's, I keep seeing flashes or something. I think it's, why add it in otherwise? Effectively, for Atwood, she's saying that the women that take the handmaid's babies are wrong and are criminals and should be punished for it. But it's become normal in this society. She fades. I can't keep her here with me. She's gone now. Maybe I do think of her as a ghost, the ghost of a dead girl, a little girl who died when she was 5. Ah, okay, cool. So that anchors us in time. She was 5 when they took her away. She's now 8, so that's 3 years. So Offred has had her first 2 year, so she was with another commander for 2 years, didn't have a baby, and now she's into the next year. Maybe it wasn't quite as clean cut as that, but yeah, so 3 years. Gilead has been going on for 3 years. I remember the picture. 3 years. Yeah, I remember the pictures of us I once had. Me holding her, standard poses, mother and baby, locked in a frame for safety. Behind my closed eyes, I can see myself as I am now, sitting beside an open drawer, or a trunk in the cellar where the baby clothes are folded away, a lock of hair cut when she was 2 in an envelope. White blonde. It got darker later. I don't have those things anymore, the clothes and the hair. I wonder what happened to all our things. Looted, dumped, carried away, confiscated. I'd learnt to do without a lot of things. If you have a lot of things, said Aunt Lydia, you get too attached to this material world, and you forget about spiritual values. You must cultivate poverty of spirit. Blessed are the meek. She didn't go on to say anything about inheriting the earth. I'm going to come back to that. No, I'm not. I'm going to pause now. Okay, so actually I'm going to talk more about this when I do chapter 15. But it's relevant now because the quote, blessed be the meek, and whatever she just said. She didn't go on to say anything about inheriting the earth. So this is a biblical reference, but also quite significant. I will attach the PowerPoint I'm reading from now when I get to chapter 15. Jesus Christ gave us the 8 Beatitudes or Beatitudes in the Sermon on the Mount, recorded for all posterity in the Gospels of Matthew, the first book of the New Testament of the Bible. Matthew's Gospel was directed to an audience steeped in Hebrew tradition. The Gospel of Matthew stressed that Jesus is the Christ or Messiah foretold in the Hebrew Scripture, our Old Testament. and that the kingdom of the Lord is the kingdom of God in heaven. Jesus offers us a way of life that promises eternity in the kingdom of heaven. Okay, and here's how it goes. I wonder if I can... No, I can't turn you round. Have a look. But this is read straight from the Bible. Gospel of St. Matthew. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Blessed are they who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So all these people, all these desires, all these personalities, so those who who want righteousness, those who want to be merciful, they will be given what they deserve, because those are good things. Those that are persecuted for the sake of righteousness in the name of Jesus, because Jesus did that, they will be going to heaven. Okay, so that's what it says in the Bible. Now, oh God, I've got to make this bigger. The message of Jesus is one of humility, charity, and brotherly love. He teaches transformation of the inner person. Jesus presents the Beatitudes in a positive sense. Virtues in life which will ultimately lead to reward. Love becomes the motivation for the Christian. All of the Beatitudes have an eschatological meaning. That is, they promise us salvation, not in this world but in the next. So not in this life, but in our next life. The Beatitudes initiate one of the main themes of Matthew's Gospel, that the kingdom so long awaited in the Old Testament is not of this world, but of the next, the kingdom of heaven. While the Beatitudes of Jesus provide a way of life that promise salvation, they also provide peace in the midst of our trials and tribulations on this earth. Now, in chapter 15, we learn that Gilead has rewritten the Beatitudes. And blessed be the meek is part of that. I just need to see if this is relevant to our chapter. Yeah, so the point that she's making here, and the point that we see in chapter 15, is that these are sort of presented as rules, not as rules, as recommendations for how to live your life. Blessed are the meek. But as in the Bible, it says, blessed be the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Of course, that's not that's certainly not something that Gilead want handmaids to think they're ever going to get. So it's just blessed are the meek. If you are meek, you are blessed. Sorry, that was a bit of a long-winded explanation. I'll come back to that in chapter 15, but I'll put the PowerPoint on the chat as well. I lie lapped by the water beside an open drawer that does not exist, and think about a girl who did not die when she was 5, who still does exist. I hope, though, not for me. Do I exist for her? Am I a picture somewhere in the dark at the back of her mind? Lovely rhetorical questions, but really, really sad. They must have told her I was dead. That's what they would think of doing. They would say it would be easier for her to adjust. 8 she must be now. I filled in the time I lost. I know how much there's been. They were right, it's easier to think of her as dead. I don't have to hope then or make a wasted effort. Why bash your head? Said Aunt Lydia, against a wall. Sometimes she had a graphic way of putting things. I ain't got all day, says Cora's voice outside the door. It's true, she hasn't. She hasn't got all of anything. I must not deprive her of her time. Offred is a chore to the household. She is expected to abide by everyone's time, although she is of higher status than them. But she is also considerate. She doesn't get cross with Cora. She understands that Cora's got a lot to do. But Cora does see her as a chore, something that she has to do. Oh, I've got to go and bathe the handmaid. It's a bit like her being a child again. I soap myself. I use the scrub brush and the piece of pumice for sanding off dead skin. Such Puritan aids are supplied. So we've got a link to the Puritan regime, as I've talked about in previous chapters. The Gilead is a Puritan regime, and they are and religion affects all kinds of aspects of life, even washing. So to take off dead skin, purify yourself. Take off dead skin with a pumice. So you're allowed a pumice stone. You're allowed soap. You're allowed a scrubbing brush, because that will aid you in purifying yourself, which is part of the Puritan regime they are in. I wish to be totally clean, germless, without bacteria, like the surface of the moon. Nice simile. I will not be able to wash myself this evening. Not afterwards. Not for a day. It interferes, they say. And why take chances? So we don't really know at this point what she's talking about. I mean, we know, but the reader at this point doesn't know if they haven't read on like we have. So this is a huge dose of foreshadowing. But as Genius says, it's purposefully vague. So the craft of the writer here is that Atwood is withholding information. We don't know what's about to happen. It's building suspense for us. We're like, well, what's going to happen? What's interfered with if she has a wash? And we know, of course, that once the commander has had sex with Offred, the whole purpose of this is to create a baby, so she's not allowed to wash. What else did it say? A reader is supposed to interpret she means the ceremony, the sexual activity of the night, and the aims of Offred fulfilling her goal. Here it is, they say, instead of Aunt Lydia says, which is an interesting break from expectations. It also provides lack of autonomy, as Offred is not allowed to bathe after, even though she might want to. The question, why take chances, comes from the they, not Offred. So who are they? Does this mean that she would be happy to take the chance? I was going to say something then. Yeah, there's an irony here that sex is unclean in Puritan values, except she's not allowed to wash afterwards to purify herself. So it's like the baby making process is far more important than actually the Puritan aspect. I cannot avoid seeing now the small tattoo on my ankle. Now this is a contextual link. This is a contextual link to Nazi Germany. She's got a tattoo, and it goes on to say 4 digits and an I, a passport in reverse. It's supposed to guarantee that it will never be able to fade finally into another landscape. I am too important, too scarce for that. I am a national resource. So she is being depersonalised here. The reason that it's a link to Nazi Germany is because prisoners in concentration camps were also given digits on tattoos, a bit like cattle. So there's animal imagery here. She is property. She belongs to Gilead. like a cow belongs to a farmer. I am a national resource. Her identity is handmade. National resource is a play on words, a play on natural resource. However, natural would imply freedom. National shows how she is a property of the state. I pull the plug, dry myself, put on my red terry cloth robe. I leave today's dress here where Cora will pick it up to be washed. So it's really like she's gone back to childhood. She's got someone watching over her in the bath. She has someone to pick up her clothes and wash her clothes. But it also links to the hierarchy of women. Offred takes Cora's time away like a chore, but Cora must do Offred's chores, like picking up clothes and washing them for her. And that gives Offred more status than Cora. Back in the room, I dress again. The white headdress isn't necessary for the evening because I won't be going out. Everyone in this house knows what my face looks like. The red veil goes on now, covering my damp hair, my head, which has not been shaved. Hair is a personal, something very personal to women. She's allowed to keep it. It's part of her identity, but she is allowed to keep it. But it's got to remain hidden. It's hers. Where did I see that film about women kneeling in the town square, hands holding them, their hair falling in clumps? What had they done? It must have been a long time ago because I can't remember. Do you know? Yes, so that quote there, where did I see that film about the women kneeling in the town square, hands holding them, their hair falling in clumps? What had they done? It must have been a long time ago because I can't remember. It's an allusion to the film Hiroshima Mon Amour in 1959, based on a book by French writer Marguerite Duras, in which a French woman who had a sexual relationship with a German soldier during World War II was later shamed by having her head shaved in public. So that's what that means. And that links back to having your hair removed being a punishment because people knew that it was such so important to women to have that as their part of their identity. Okay. Cora brings my supper, covered on a tray. She knocks at the door before entering. Nice, respectful. I like her for that. It means she thinks I have some of what we used to call privacy left. Which is an old way of acting from the time before. Offred's language shows either it does not exist or is mocking the treatment of it in the now. It gives her a degree of more autonomy and control over her body. So she is noticing that she has that little bit of privacy and appreciates it. Thank you, I say, taking the tray from her, and she actually smiles at me, but she turns away without answering. When we're alone together, she's shy of me. Again, this links back to female hierarchy again. Also a link to what Offred does, which Cora might be shy of or might not agree with. I mean, Offred's got no choice to do it, but Cora may not agree that what she's doing is okay. Contrastingly, this may mean that Cora fears trouble when alone with Offred from the regime if something were to happen to either of them. I put the tray on the small white painted table and draw the chair up to it. I take the cover off the tray. The sigh of a chicken overcooked is better than bloody, which is the other way she does it. Rita has ways of making her resentment felt. So Rita has either undercooks things or overcooks things. She resents Offred for having to cook her dinner, for being lower in status than Offred. A baked potato. So the question there is Rita resentful of the handmaids, or is she resentful of the regime? Probably both. A baked potato, green beans, salad, canned pears for dessert. It's good enough food, though bland. healthy food. You have to get your vitamins and minerals, says Aunt Lydia coyly. You must be a worthy vessel, is a quote. You must be a worthy vessel. You are a vessel. You are only a vessel for holding a baby. No coffee or tea, though. No alcohol. Studies have been done. Well, we know that caffeine and alcohol is not good for babies or pregnant women, but also not good for your body in general. So trying to get pregnant could mean that, you know, no caffeine, no alcohol is a good idea. These substances are also against God in Puritanism due to addiction. So is it a religious rule or is it a scientific rule? The borders are quite blurred there. There's a paper napkin, as in cafeterias. I think of the others, those without. This is the heartland here. I'm leading a pampered life. May the Lord make us truly grateful, said Aunt Lydia. Or was it thankful? That's from the Lord's Prayer, another biblical reference. And I start to eat the food. I'm not hungry tonight. I feel sick to my stomach. Now, this is the first in many references of Offred referring to herself feeling ill or sick before the ceremony, because she's nervous. And as time passes towards the ceremony, she starts to feel more and more ill. But there's no place to put the food, no potted plants, and I won't chance the toilet. I'm too nervous, that's what it is. Could I leave it on the plate, ask Cora not to report me? I chew and swallow, feeling the sweat come out. In my stomach, the food balls itself together, a handful of damp cardboard squeezed. So, horrible metaphor. The food is literally not enjoyable because she's so nervous, so anxious. Downstairs, the dining table, there will be candles on the large mahogany table, a white cloth, silver, flowers, wine glasses, wine in them. There will be the click of knives against china. A click as she sets down her fork with a barely audible sigh, leaving half the contents of her plate untouched. She's talking about Serena Joy, and she's also talking about the privileged in this household. Maybe Offred is envious, maybe. But it isolates her from the action of the household. She's upstairs eating off a tray, and the commander and his wife are eating downstairs. Or the wife, I don't know whether the commander's there. Offred is kept upstairs like someone that needs to be kept out of sight. She's taboo and alienated from the house to make them feel better for what they're going to have to do to her later on. Serena Joy leaving half the contents of her plate untouched. She's got envy that the wife can leave food without anyone reporting her. She's got bodily autonomy to refuse food. Shows also a lack of care for the wives, as they're not cared for as the handmaids are in this way. Possibly she will say she has no appetite. Possibly she won't say anything. No one cares what Serena Joy eats or doesn't eat. If she says something, does he comment? If she doesn't say anything, does he notice? Shows empathy for Serena Joy, but also curiosity. She's interested in the dynamics in their relationship. Offred will never have the chance to sit at a dining table with her husband and find these things out for herself due to what she does. I wonder how she manages to get herself noticed. I think it must be hard. So Offred is showing empathy towards the wife, because the wife has kind of... their relationship has changed so much that Offred knows that the wives are probably not getting the attention that they used to. There's a pat of butter on the side of the plate. I tear off a corner of the paper napkin, wrap the butter in it, take it to the cupboard and slip it into the toe of my right shoe from the extra pair, as I have done before. I crumble up the rest of the napkin. No one surely will bother to smooth it out to check if anything is missing. I will use the butter later tonight. It would not do this evening to smell of butter. And again, there's withheld information there. We don't know what she's going to use the butter for. Why is she going to smell of butter? Now, this is significant to the theme of rebellion. Although Offred has not stolen something, it was given to her. She's doing something with it that she's not expected to do. And she points out to the reader that this is not the first time either. We find out what she does with it later. I wait. I compose myself. Myself is a thing I must now compose. Again, passive tense. Rather than I compose myself, myself is a thing I must now compose. As one composes a speech, what I must present is a made thing, not something born. So, parallel syntax, repetition of that phrase, what I must present is a made thing, not something born, which relates to, as we've said, actually, no, it's not parallel syntax at all, is it? We haven't heard it already. I have read it to you. Again, just to go over that, Offred's final words, what I must present is a made thing, not something born, echo those of the French feminist Simone de Beauvoir in The Second Sex, 1949. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. The art of performing femininity according to social convention is merely taken on a different direction in Gilead. So it's not something that you are born knowing how to do, it's something that you grow into. Okay, so that is chapter 12. I haven't got anything else to add, but I will add in that PowerPoint I was reading from earlier, but it also links to chapter 15, so it will say chapter 15 on it, I think, somewhere. All right.